Eyewitness is DK's groundbreaking series of books, videos, and interactive CD-ROMs. Eyewitness brings the amazing world we live in into vivid, up-close detail, with superb photography and meticulously researched content. In the Eyewitness video collection, each new volume takes the viewer on a whirlwind tour through the 3D virtual museum to discover the incredible facts and history surrounding a broad range of topics in nature, science, and the modern world. Eyewitness CD-ROMs let computer users take control of their museum tour, to wander in and around these fantastic galleries, and to interact with the displays, bringing a whole new dimension to learning about everything from space travel to dinosaurs. And to celebrate the phenomenal success of Eyewitness, DK has created 2 large format books, Eyewitness Living Earth and Eyewitness Natural World, which combine to create a complete visual introduction to the rich variety and the complex natural history of life on Earth. All combine to make Eyewitness more than a series of books, videos, and CD-ROMs, but a whole new way of seeing the world.
Volcanoes speak volumes. Powerful, terrifying, spectacular, each eruption is a window into the earth beneath our feet. Volcanoes fire our imagination. They inspire myths and legends and tempt our curiosity beyond the confines of our world. Volcanoes create even as they destroy. A volcano is the product of a shifty planet. From deep inside the Earth, the destruction bursts forth, rivers of lava and clouds of ash. And as if that's not earth-shaking enough, our fractured planet also shudders with internal contortions. Earthquakes, generated by some of the same global forces that cause volcanoes. It's the ultimate show and tell, when the Earth reminds us that its serenity is a cover-up of gigantic proportions. One reminder arrived in the year 79 AD. High above the Italian towns of Pompeii and Herculaneum, Mount Vesuvius blew its top. Clouds of hot ash rained down on the towns. Even worse, Vesuvius unleashed poison gases. Hot mud and flowing ash made a glowing avalanche. People fell in their tracks. A way of life was buried for all time. Archaeologists, working nearly 2,000 years later, discovered the victims. Perhaps none is more poignant than the faithful soldier found still guarding his post. At Pompeii, even the carbonized remains of food, like bowls of walnuts, were locked in the vaults of time. Across the bay from Pompeii, the future historian Pliny the Younger watched in despair as the city was destroyed. He recorded the fate of his uncle, Pliny the Elder, who tried to observe the eruption, but, like so many others, was overcome by the fumes. For every active volcano, there are many more that slumber, dormant. Mount St. Helens in the American Northwest was one such place. For 123 years, forests grew and animals thrived on the mountain's peaceful slopes. Such peace can be deceptive. (1984), Krafla in Iceland. 5,000 citizens had to be evacuated as lava threatened the village. More lava flowed each day than water pours over Niagara. When the Earth erupts, it often quakes too. Near Krafla, the Earth's face was cracked with rifts up to 8 kilometers long. But earthquakes can also happen far from any erupting volcano. January 1995 brought devastation to Japan when an earthquake hurtled through the city of Kobe. The quake lasted only a few seconds, but brought down 100,000 buildings. Faced with such superhuman power, we've long searched for explanations. How and why do the upheavals occur? And when can we expect the next one? By the 17th century, scientists believed the Earth had a fiery core. They were getting warmer. We now know that the fire is actually molten rock from the Earth's interior. Collecting in underground chambers, the pressurized magma forces its way up and out. But why do volcanoes and earthquakes show up where they do? The answer lies close to the surface. Our planet's thin shell lies in pieces. Like parts of a global jigsaw puzzle, the pieces have drifted across millions of years to their present familiar positions. The continents are just the visible surface of immense plates, chunks of the Earth's crust, driven by the planet's internal heat to move. The Earth gives its most spectacular performances where the plates touch, as the continents continue to drift. When two massive plates rub shoulders, they may snag and try to shake loose. Earthquake. And when two plates grind together, one pushes the other beneath it or alongside it. Magma at the collision zone is hotter and lighter than the nearby rock and rises. As it does so, it melts more rock along the way. When magma finally surfaces, it takes on a new name: lava. And the mountain reveals its true identity as a volcano. Mount St. Helens, 1980. A century-long catnap was over. Gas dissolved in the lava escaped with such force that the hot rock was blasted into smithereens, creating landslides of mud and ash. Buildings. The gases would be deadly to most living things, yet there are animals that thrive here. The eruption lasted 9 hours, but in just the first 2 minutes, 10 million trees were flattened. Half a million dead trees still float in Spirit Lake. and the mountain top is now a crater deep enough to dwarf the World Trade Center. Volcanic craters often fill with rainwater. While some are beautiful and pure, others are distinctly unpleasant. When a volcano leaks sulfur dioxide and other noxious gases into the water, the lake becomes a lethal cocktail. A steaming crater is the setting for a tale of jealous love told by the Maoris of the South Pacific. Two volcano gods fought as rivals for the affections of another. They hurled lava and boiling water at each other. The duel ended with the first literally to erupt with rage. According to legend, the vanquished volcano god went to nurse his wounds beneath the sea. He was in good company. The tellers of this tale seem to know something about the ocean floor that we have only recently observed. There are eruptions here too. Even more volcanoes exist under the ocean than on land. 10 times more. About 250 erupt every year. Some undersea volcanoes bring life, not death. Active spots called black smokers belch gases from towering chimneys, some as tall as high-rise ghostly crabs, eelfish, tube worms that grow to twice the size of an average person. This food chain depends not on sunlight, but on microorganisms that can absorb sulfuric acid. It's an unearthly realm on Earth. For all of us, home is a planet created by seismic forces. In Siberia, volcanoes erupted for 1 million years at a time, shaping the landscape with rivers of scorching lava. Siberia is now considerably cooler. A volcano means new Earth in the making. Some undersea volcanoes rise up through the waves, far from any plate edge. These are hotspot volcanoes. They form when magma punches through a weak zone in the Earth's crust. The Hawaiian Islands formed like this, and a new one is on its way. It even has a name, but it'll be tens of thousands of years before tourists are playing golf on Luihi. Once lava hardens, life can thrive. Lava tubes fill with water, and then with shrimp and fish. More marine animals are quick to move in nearby. Over time, the razor-sharp ridges of lava get a new green coat. On isolated islands like Hawaii, animals adapt quickly in order to survive. Finches blown to the islands millions of years ago evolved into more than 50 species. Today, each species has features perfectly adapted to its own limited food source. When Earth's shake-ups combine with water, the results are especially deadly. Volcanoes and earthquakes can create giant waves, tsunamis. When Mount St. Helens erupted, its explosion was just the overture. The vibrations sent a wall of water 150 stories high surging out of Spirit Lake. But it's the coast of Japan that is most regularly menaced by tsunamis. Could a tsunami have come to the aid of the biblical leader Moses? The setting for the Red Sea parting is in an earthquake zone. During the first stage of such a wave, the water level actually lowers. One theory is that the Israelites rushed to safety just ahead of a tsunami's massive surge. Indonesian Hindus take out an insurance policy against the destructive energy of volcanoes. They place a statue of Shiva, god of destruction and creation, on many mountaintops. Volcanoes may cause mayhem, but they also yield riches. Volcanic ash is full of nutrients from deep within the earth. Fertilizer for crops, up to 3 harvests a year in these rice fields. And fertilizer for grapes, growing even on the slopes above Pompeii. Vino Vesuvio, anyone? Gems, too, sparkle from the depths. As molten magma cools, the stuff of nightmares is transformed to the stuff of dreams. Rubies, peridots, garnets and gold can all be found inside volcanoes. And there's sulfur, crystallized from sulfur gas, the reason most volcanoes smell like rotten eggs. Although sulfur can be deadly, we've been mining it for centuries and using it to make rubber more durable in the process called vulcanization. In Japan, life can be a moving experience, but the nation also harnesses the heat of Earth's fiery nature. Here, a cookout can mean frying your eggs on lava, and volcanic mud puts a whole new complexion on things. Japanese sufferers of rheumatism, arthritis and asthma, and even stomach ailments bury themselves in hot volcanic sand, legendary for its healing properties. Even these macaques take advantage of natural hot springs warmed by volcanic heat far below in Earth's internal plumbing system. Sometimes that plumbing blows sky high. The world's tallest geyser could rain down on the top of the Empire State Building. Boiling hot and full of noxious gases, the vents called fumaroles appear to be devoid of life, but living things can adapt even here. Bacteria are alive and well in spite of the heat. Born deep inside volcanoes, they lie dormant until an eruption blasts them out. For larger living things too, a volcano may be home. Volcano rabbits live on 4 active volcanoes near Mexico City. With fewer than 600 known to exist, they're some of the rarest animals in the world. Perhaps one got away. The Aztecs believed they saw their small-eared rabbit in the shadows of the moon. Life on Earth is under threat when our planet rocks and rolls. A Mexican myth claims that after 5 creations of the world and 4 destructions, by hurricane, fire, flood and jaguar, our world will be finally shaken to bits by an earthquake. Folklore, but far from far-fetched. The planet has been quaking for as long as we can remember. Earth takes some of her best shots at the state of California, the meeting point of 2 rocky wrestling plates. In 1906, the San Francisco quake sent the entire city on a roller coaster ride that came to a crashing halt. California's quakes definitely pack a punch, but Japan bears the brunt of Earth's gyrations. 1/10 of the world's earthquakes race through here, several minor ones every week, and massive quakes averaging 1 per century. In 1923, Tokyo was completely devastated. No wonder the Japanese fear and revere Mount Fuji, centerpiece of their seismically active nation. Mount Fuji was believed to be the home of the sun god who protects the Japanese people. Such protection must be invoked often. Earthquakes can send cooking stoves tumbling, setting buildings on fire. In California, many buildings have been fitted with shock absorbers. but they're no match for fire unleashed during a quake. Most of our buildings are still at risk, and with them, our lives. The best protection is to predict Earth's next move, if only that were easy. An ancient Japanese legend says a giant catfish lies beneath the earth, pinned down by a god. When the catfish wriggles from his grasp, the earth quakes. Forecasting Earth's next moves with certainty eludes our grasp. Chinese observers may have a clue. Before one earthquake, turtles jumped out of the water, tigers stopped in their tracks, and a panda held its head and moaned. It seems that animals have finer senses than we have as yet. But at least our ability to measure Earth's seismic shake-ups has grown in leaps and bounds. Today, when an earthquake hits, the Richter scale is one way of taking its measure. More than 300 volcanoes, filming eruptions around the world. In the aftermath of Mount St. Helens, scientists found plenty to measure. A dome of magma in the crater matched the moon's cycle, swelling and shrinking with the lunar tides. By recording the dome's activity, scientists could predict 17 further eruptions at Mount St. Helens. They used laser light to detect tiny amounts of ground movement, a technique so accurate it's like being able to measure the width of a coin from a passing plane. To understand a volcano, scientists get closer than most of us would like. There are alternatives to direct human observation of volcanoes. Thomas Jagger was an early volcanologist. In 1912, he built the observatory on Mount Kilauea, Hawaii. And you can't get much closer than this. Morris and Katia Kraft studied more than... Volcanology is a dangerous business. The Krafts were both killed in an eruption of one of the volcanoes they had come to study. Dante is an 8-legged robot equipped with video transmitters. In 1994, Dante entered a lofty inferno, Mount Spur in Alaska, an active volcano. The journey took 2 days. The heat and gases would have killed a human observer. Dante was able to send pictures back to Anchorage, where NASA researchers sat safely indoors. On the return trip, Dante was overwhelmed, not by lava, but by mundane mud. From robots to radar, volcanoes are under our watchful eye. Mount Etna in Italy has had its measurements taken by radar from space. Using some of the same technology we use to gaze at more distant volcanoes. This is Mars, and a simulated flyover of a region the size of the United States based on actual images. The entire chain of Hawaiian islands could fit inside one immense crater in the heart of the volcano Olympus Mons. Venus, too, features a volcanic landscape that is alive only with color. According to myth, the planets Mars, Venus, Jupiter were gods. Vulcan was the god of fire. After a violent argument, Jupiter hurled Vulcan to Earth, where he unleashed his fiery havoc. He gave his name to the volcano. Legendary volcanoes stretch across time, and the planet. In Java, the Hindu faithful believed that the god Brahma created the world and took as his dwelling the heart of a volcano, one of Java's fire mountains. Once a year, homage is paid to him in a festival based on an ancient event in the Hindu tradition. When a royal couple prayed to Brahma for children, he agreed to grant their wish if they promised to give him a son in return. But the joyful parents forgot their promise. The angry god snatched the child and took him to dwell with him deep inside his crater. In Ireland, St. Patrick is said to have converted much of the population to Christianity. Yet distant volcanoes may deserve some credit. The Irish conversion coincided with catastrophes that hit the region, failed crops and famine that the Bible had foretold. The likely cause of the failed crops? Volcanic eruptions far away, probably in Iceland. Huge clouds of ash can block out the sun. After so much heat, the world grows colder. A record of the change is laid down by silent survivors, trees. If a volcano's ashy outburst puts a chill in the air, trees lay down only narrow rings, revealing a time of little growth. When lava flows, nature records and recovers. Mount St. Helens has given us a glimpse not only of our planet's destructive force, but of its healing power. Deer mice were found on the mountain slopes the very first summer after the blast. Too far from unharmed land to have walked in, they'd survived. There were other survivors too. Elk arrived, venturing into devastated terrain that scientists had believed such large mammals would never inhabit. At Mount St. Helens, a decade later, there are fertile islands in a form. Pocket gophers emerged above Spirit Lake. Their deep burrows in sheltered hollows had saved them from the eruption's terrific blast. The gophers' groundwork brought buried seeds and roots to the surface, where they sprouted and grew. Form a blast zone. A new forest sprouts. And there is more here than meets the eye. New bacterial relatives of Legionnaire's disease were discovered, 30 in all, and a new form of flu called red zone fever infected scientists. There were even more surprising finds, bacteria that could be related to the first living things on Earth. Volcanoes may throw open a window not only to Earth's rocky internal life, but to tiny life forms that dwell deep within its layers. Despite such revealing ways, our planet remains a mystery. As its surface skin cracks and quakes and volcanoes burst forth, we're allowed only a brief glimpse into its turbulence. The Earth retains its most shattering trait of all, unpredictability. For all our watching, researching and recording, we never know when the Earth will next reveal its deepest secrets. It is written in stone, an expression meaning something that's permanent. But in truth, the story of stone is a story of change. Even the rough skin of the rock we live on is changing slowly. Its ragged and crumbling surface has provided us with the foundation of human civilization. Rocks, minerals, crystals, gems. We wear them, work with them, walk on them. We even worship them. What is a rock? A cocktail of atoms combines to form crystals. Crystals combine to form minerals. Minerals combine to form rocks. From talisman to tool, from sandstone to silicon chip, the human story, as written in stone, is also a tale of change and transformation. For 4.5 billion years, the Earth has recorded its history in stone, an ongoing diary of change. Pressed between its pages, we find fossils like this leaf. Fossils aren't made overnight. The space once occupied by decaying fish is filled in by minerals. As layers accumulate over the centuries, the pressure eventually compacts the sediment into rock and a fossil, a stone memorial to the fish. Fossils provide a rare glimpse of some of the earliest forms of life to thrive on Earth. The permanence of stone and the towering stature of mountains have always inspired awe. In Australia, Aborigines consider Ayers Rock to be sacred. While some rocks were revered, others were put to work. Simple pebble tools have been found in some of the earliest human graves. Stone axes dating back 700,000 years. 300,000 years ago, flint became the stone of choice. Because flint splits in any direction and fractures to a sharp edge, it was perfect for tools and weapons. From the earliest crude choppers to scrapers, knives and arrowheads, flint became a Stone Age sensation. Although the human use of fire goes back hundreds of thousands of years, the first known use of flint as a fire-making tool was around 7000 BC. Some Native Americans considered flint to be a god. A great fire at the center of the Earth was one of the first notions of our planet's core. Today, we know Earth's center has a solid inner core about 1,200 kilometers wide. The inner core is encased in a molten outer core, which in turn is surrounded by the solid mantle. And surrounding that entire package is the Earth's crust, the rocky wrapping on which we live. Even with the most modern technology, we've only been able to probe a few kilometers into the crust. We've only scratched its surface, which is littered with stone mysteries. The great megaliths of the late Stone Age were erected by people who left no written records. At Carnac in France, several thousand megaliths arranged in orderly rows lead the way for over a kilometre to stone tombs and burial grounds. It's been said that the people who erected these stones believed the souls of the dead liked to come out and take the air. Each vertical stone, or menhir, was not only a perch where the soul could rest, but a marker to point the way back. Stonehenge, the first rock group to achieve worldwide fame, is believed to have been used for both worship and astronomy. Like any rock that's been around for a few billion years, the Earth's surface has seen its share of wear and tear. Forces from within also shape the Earth's crust. The Earth's internal heat pushes and pulls on the crust. Magma is a mineral soup of boiling rock, which can slowly push up through seams to form ridges or explode onto the Earth's surface in volcanic eruptions. The Earth's crust is like a suit of armour that doesn't quite fit. In some places, the plates have been prized apart, leaving deep trenches. Although it takes millions of years, two plates pressing together can buckle upwards and form mountain ranges. Just as we had no knowledge of plate tectonics 50 years ago, the early Greeks didn't know the Earth was round. The centre of their world was at Delphi in the Temple of Apollo. They believed the world was created from this navel stone, or omphalos, made of white marble. While volcanoes illustrate how internal forces can shape rock, the external forces of erosion also leave their mark. Wind and blowing sand carved Monument Valley in Arizona. Rainwater, actually a weak acid, can in time dissolve the minerals on a rock's surface. The tors of Dartmoor, England, were created when the softer minerals were dissolved away, leaving stone building blocks. Water's most renowned rock carving is the Grand Canyon. Cutting through layers of sandstone and limestone, the Colorado River has carved deep into the Earth's crust, exposing rock and fossils laid down 4 billion years ago. Few other places on Earth reveal as much about the planet's history. Equally effective, but more subtle, is the eroding power of temperature change. When water seeps into a rock's hairline cracks, then freezes, it expands the cracks. Repeated melting and refreezing eventually breaks the rock. The human species is not the only one to put rocks to work. A boulder, warmed by the sun, makes a heating pad for cold-blooded lizards. Birds don't have teeth to break up their food. They swallow their food whole, and it gets ground up further down the line by gizzard stones. As a digestive aid, parrots reach for chalky kaolin. We use kaolin in pottery, paper, and to give paint a matte finish. Long before humans knew the difference between matte and glossy, they were painting the walls of caves. Not only did rock provide the canvas, but also the paint. first paints were made from clays and minerals such as chalk and hematite, which were crushed to a powder and mixed with animal fat. What is the difference between a rock and a mineral? Minerals are defined by a distinctive chemical formula. As chocolate chip cookies are combinations, so rocks are combinations of minerals. Unlike a biscuit, minerals are constantly recycled. That process recombines them into 3 distinct rock types. When the minerals in magma cool and harden, they become igneous rock, from the Latin for fire. Minerals from igneous rocks are transported by wind and water. This sediment is deposited, compacted and cemented together in sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rock bakes under more pressure and metamorphoses into metamorphic rock, which eventually turns back to magma. Limestone, a common sedimentary rock, can even contain shells embedded within it. Limestone caves are carved by water, dissolving the minerals out of limestone. Dripping water, redepositing the minerals, creates stalactites and stalagmites. Stalagmites grow up, stalactites grow down. When they meet, it's called an organ pipe. These limestone caves in Druilin, Ireland, offer a honeycomb of passages and underwater galleries to explore. Other members of the Sedimentary Rock Hall of Fame include the Travertine Terraces of Turkey, a natural wonder. The Pyramids of Egypt, monuments of limestone. And Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, another limestone splendor. By the advent of Judaism around 2000 BC, and then later Christianity, stones came to be revered rather than worshipped. In the Temple of Jerusalem, within the Holy of Holies, under the altar for burnt offering, is the rock which is believed to be the site of creation. This rock also seals up the hole that supposedly drained off the waters of the first great flood. Metamorphic means change, which is exactly what happens when sedimentary shale, subjected to pressure and heat, is transformed into slate, a metamorphic rock. When rock is squeezed and folded, like bread being kneaded, the minerals within the rock recrystallize. Schists are formed in the Earth's crust when the underground pressure cooker exceeds 500 degrees centigrade. Limestone, subjected to immense heat and pressure, turns into a rock batter and is baked into marble. Marble dominates the Metamorphic Rock Hall of Fame with some of the world's most impressive buildings. The Greek Parthenon, the Taj Mahal, constructed with a wide variety of marble. Famous marble statues are metamorphic and mesmerizing. Special mention goes to slate, which, via the blackboard, has held more knowledge than any other metamorphic rock. While slate might be considered the rock of knowledge, in Christendom, the rock of steadfast faith supports the city of God. St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican is believed to be built on the Apostle Peter's grave. His name comes from the Greek word Petros, meaning rock. Peter symbolizes the unshifting ground on which the church is built. Rocky shorelines provide seabirds with unshifting breeding grounds. Rockhopper penguins even use small stones to build their nests. the rock wallaby of Australia prefers life on the rocks. A chamois' rock climbing equipment consists of sharp hooves and steady nerves. A rock balanced on a sea otter's belly provides the perfect anvil for cracking open shellfish. For bears, rocky rivers supply food, while rock caves are a haven for hibernation. Igneous means born of fire. The most common igneous rock is granite. All granites are a combination of three minerals: quartz, feldspar and mica. The Earth's rocky interior is predominantly igneous rock and made in two ways. Extrusive rocks such as obsidian form when lava, pushed to the surface, cools. Intrusive rocks solidify within the crust and, like Sugarloaf Mountain in Brazil, are exposed by erosion. The Igneous Rock Hall of Fame contains such famous and fire-born rocks as the Rosetta Stone, made of black basalt. Sri Lanka's 13-metre Buddha, sculpted from local granite. And the hard-headed presidents of Mount Rushmore, carved from the mountain's granite. Some rocks even come from outer space. Canyon Diablo, Arizona. A meteorite weighing 15,000 tons pounded out a crater a kilometre wide. As many as 19,000 meteorites, apple-size or bigger, bombard the Earth each year. Not all meteorites have fallen from the sky. Some were carried home by astronauts. One meteorite is venerated throughout the Islamic world, the Black Stone in the Kaaba at Mecca. According to tradition, it was given to Adam when he was expelled from the Garden of Eden. Originally white, the stone has been supposedly blackened by the sins of the world. Between black and white lies the brilliant spectrum of gemstones. While gems come in a tremendous variety of size and shape, they've always symbolized clarity, purity and perfection. It's believed jewelry was first worn by the living and the dead to prevent evil spirits from entering the body through the ears, mouth or nose. Jewelry has been found in ceremonial tombs dating back 20,000 years. Gemstones, precious or semi-precious, have always come from a single crystal. The word crystal is derived from the Greek word kyros, meaning icy cold. It was once believed that rock crystal was ice frozen so hard it would never melt. This belief was disproved in a simple experiment. In 1777, it was shown by Robert Boyle that rock crystal, or quartz, could not be ice because whereas ice floats, quartz sinks. What is a crystal then? Just as minerals are the building blocks of rocks, crystals are the building blocks of minerals. All well-formed crystals have certain regular patterns. Parallel edges and parallel faces are their main characteristics. Crystals are all around us. Here's a pile of sugar crystals supported by a mass of silver crystals. We tread on quartz crystals at the beach. We shake salt crystals on our food. Since the vast majority of crystals are microscopic, it's no wonder that the large, well-formed crystals are the ones that catch our eye and stir our imagination. Lapis, used in jewellery for over 6,000 years, was thought to be a bit of blue heaven which had fallen to earth. Turquoise was used as a horse amulet, a charm to protect the horse and rider. Jade and nephrite from China were believed to have life-giving powers. This nephrite and gold funeral suit was made to preserve the body of a Chinese princess. It was the Greeks and Romans who first began gazing into crystal balls and seeing visions in the curtain of mist. Rubies, once known as bloodstones, were worn by Roman gladiators to stop bleeding from wounds. Amethyst, a purple quartz, was considered a charm for remaining sober, no matter how much wine was drunk. There may have been some truth to this. An amethyst goblet allowed servants to add water to their master's wine without being detected. In the 4th century, the Church declared precious stones to be fetters of the soul. Those who wore them were excommunicated. Eventually, the Church reversed its position. Indeed, amethysts became the traditional stone for bishops' and cardinals' rings. When Lucifer was cast from heaven, the Archangel Michael's flaming sword struck his crown and knocked an emerald into the abyss. As legend has it, this heavenly jewel was carved into the cup Christ drank from at the Last Supper. The Holy Grail. Some gems remained unlucky. When the Black Death ravaged Europe, Venetians noticed that opals became brilliant when a wearer caught the disease, and dulled when they died. The hardest rock of all is the diamond. The name may come from the Sanskrit word Dayu, a luminous deity. To bring out a gemstone's luster, beauty and colour, it's cut and polished by a jeweller. Diamonds weren't always a girl's best friend. In 1442, Agnes Sorel became the first commoner to break the French law stating that only royalty could wear diamonds. It helped that she was the king's mistress. Napoleon wore the Regent diamond on his sword, believing it would make him unconquerable. He must have gone to Waterloo with a rhinestone. The one mineral that has caused more grief than any other is the great corrupter, gold. The Egyptians were working with gold more than 5,000 years ago. Gold fever is as old as greed itself. From King Midas, whose touch turned everything to gold, to the Spanish conquistadors who looted Central and South America for its gold, to the California gold rush of 1849. The golden Buddha of Bangkok weighs 5.5 tons, enough for 300,000 wedding rings. Gold symbolizes a bright future, never to be dimmed by time. Because it won't tarnish, gold has long been associated with eternal life. In Egypt, the honored dead were encased in gold. Gold and diamonds embody the dual character of stone. Diamond for its permanence, gold for its malleable nature. While precious stones adorn us, we've also built our world with the raw materials that nature provides. Rocks and minerals, even the most glamorous, are the workhorses of our daily lives. 80% of diamonds mined serve utilitarian needs: oil drilling bits, quarrying tools, and a cutting edge of scalpels. Mercury, the liquid mineral, tells us the temperature. Aluminium holds our drinks. Graphite fills our pencils. Silicon is used in computer chips. Crystals keep our watches, TVs and radios working. Silver makes our film. The beauty and power of stones has always been in the eye of the beholder. Artists sculpt with them. Hikers climb them. England's coronation chair sits atop the Scottish stone of Scone, symbolising that whoever rules England rules Scotland too. For some, crystals can rule the mind and body with healing powers. In Japan, their earth god, Shizu, is also the guardian angel of children. Stones are placed on his statue to be used as stepping stones by the souls of children who have died and need help crossing the river between this world and the next. In crossing the river of time, rocks, minerals and gems have been the stepping stones of human civilization. And one stone transports us through time and space. It is the jewelled earth, the rock which gives us all the ride of our lives.